Satya Dharma Reflection on April 25th, 2022. Don't compose the mind. Don't maintain. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself. Do you know that it's even beyond brightening, beyond dispersing? Let there be no traces and discard everything. Always maintaining and dwelling within oneself constantly, it becomes a heaviness. Always pulling one person or two person, this is pulling down, weigh down each other. How much is gonna weigh down when there is such mind maintaining? No grasping, even the non-grasping itself, the state of mind or any attributes are not relevant to themselves. They are not any kind of practice. They are not the samutai. They are not causes of suffering or the suffering itself. The disregard discards itself. The disregard doesn't grasp itself. The disregard that is not about anything within itself. The maintaining in itself is a karmic habit. Maintaining in the seeing, in the knowing, internally. Where is it from, this kind of being clear or not? This is from the delusion. Without delusion, there will not be such a thing as being clear or not. If there is no delusion, there will not be yes or no. If there is no delusion, then there will not be true or not true. Where is it from, this kind of true or false? It's from this kind of deluded viewpoint in the maintaining of seeing and knowing. Uninvolved with the disregard itself, so that it will discard the maintaining. So that it will not become samutai in maintaining the deluded viewpoints, the knowing, maintaining of the mind. Then it will help samsara in releasing and unwinding in all directions and fully. This will be simultaneous. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, each time has to be simultaneous. The enlightenment, cutting deluded knowing, and the blessing is in one sentence. simultaneously with samsara, so that it will be helping with all this power. The habit of grasping is a lot, forming up mindfulness and concentration and taking itself. It becomes always as realms of existence, forming up contemplation and insight and grasp it, forming up the aggregate and grasp it is always as such, as realm of existence. This is only from the samuttai, from the grasping that which is not about grasping. Even non-grasping doesn't grasp itself. Being deluded to grasp that which is not about grasping. This is an obsession, and it's become the karmic difficulties in the grasping. Grasping the mind, the aggregate, dharma, seeing, knowing, concentration, mindfulness, contemplation, wisdom, grasping all types of dharma, all types of the assumed up things. This is the delusion to grasp. It is the samuttai itself. It is the origin of the samuttai, forming up and grasp the form up itself. This is the delusion that overlays anicca, dukkha, anatta. All things, all elements, all dharma are all the same as anicca, dukkha, anatta. All things don't grasp themselves as they are. All elements don't grasp themselves as they are. All dharma doesn't grasp itself in its nature, but there is a form up which takes in itself. This is the causes of suffering and the suffering in itself. Let's seize the samuttai, not practicing it. The practice itself is the samuttai within itself, the cause of suffering and the suffering in itself. That's why it becomes samsara. That's why it becomes realm of existence. Samsara of karma and of karmic difficulties, which is called karma overlaying, the dharma overlaying body mind. All the practice for attainment is karma overlaying dharma, the delusive attachment overlaying dharma, the delusive attachment that overlay the form of things. Disregard even from the disregard itself. The disregard is not relevant to itself. The disregard discards itself. The disregard that is not about anything within itself. Why always maintaining the mind to create drowsiness? Why maintaining anicca, dukkha, maintaining that which is not maintaining in itself? More of that, it becomes vedana and hindrances, which creates also the drowsiness eventually. The disregard is not about anything within itself more constantly. The disregard is not relevant to itself. The unwinding discards itself, doesn't grasp itself. The unwinding discards itself. It doesn't take in itself. Right now there is no brightness guiding the mind at all. This is laziness. All is given already. All the conclusion is given already. The brightness has been guiding in all sentences. This is like being lazy to guide the mind, to purify the mind itself, being obsessed with the karmic habits, the old traits, the old patterns, always grasping, always thinking. This is weighing down within itself, heaviness in itself. Not diligently brighten out in one's own mind, forming up each sentence within the mind. This is the enlightenment, cutting deluded knowing and the blessing in one sentence. Otherwise, always maintaining the mind, maintaining stillness, indifference or ordinariness, even that. Always maintaining the neutral mind, on and on. Nothing is within the disregarding itself simultaneously, internally and externally. If diligently blessing, there will be unwinding and releasing from all the dwelling and sustaining of the mind. It will give up itself. The mind will give up itself. But what happens is there is just karma that is grasping the Dhamma on and on. This is wrong interpretation. Always taking side on one's own mind, on one's own viewpoint. That's why there is no enlightenment, no cutting deluded knowing. All the practice of attainment is like grasping the anicca, dukkha, anatta. There is no exception at all. That's why there is entrapment of suffering for both vipassana and suffering. Practicing Dhamma to grasp Dhamma, all is enlightenment. The anicca doesn't grasp itself. How can there be any grasping in all things and all elements? Everything is anicca, dukkha, anatta. How can one grasp it? That's why there is the terminology that has to purify itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself. Purify the delusion to grasp itself. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself. This is purifying the delusion to grasp or not grasping. Remind oneself, recall each sentence, because it's the brightness that guides the mind, uninvolved even within the involved itself, so that it will release out from the control of the mind or the maintaining of the mind. This is no giving up, just fixation to the internal. There is no giving up. Maintaining the looking, the seeing, the knowing, there is no giving up in itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself. The disregard doesn't grasp itself. Recall in each moment with these essential sentences. It will purify right at that moment. Why running after teachers? There is just grasping. How many Buddha eras that the ending has been given, but one doesn't end within oneself, all by oneself. This is a delusion. This is a fixation. Fixating towards that which is not about fixation. The Dhamma is anicca and anatta. All Dhamma is anatta. All Dhamma is anicca. The Dhamma doesn't grasp itself. The Dhamma doesn't fixate to itself as it is. Why fixate to the Dhamma? this is fixate towards that which is not about fixation. That's why it becomes cycle of becoming or samsara. This is all about karmic difficulties from the practice within the worldly and within Dharma. This is the one thing, the grasping mind. It's just changing the location from worldly to Dharma. That's why it becomes samsara of realms of existence. The worldly way grasping in itself, the Dharma also grasping the Dharma. That's why it becomes samsara of realm of existence, which is called higher realm or lower realm or medium realm. This is from the karmic difficulties of the grasping. Some groups grasping the subtleties, the crudeness. This is grasping in the way of the lower realms, the woeful realms, grasping elements, Dhamma, all things. In other ways also just fabricate opinions, fixated towards viewpoints, grasping that which is not about grasping, forming up Dhamma of mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, concentration, grasping or trying to attain that which is not about attainment. That's why it's become samsara of karmic difficulties in grasping. This is not the way, whether it is high realm or lower realm or medium realm. This is not to be discussed with the woeful realms. Even high realm is not the way. This is from grasping mind in the different ways, but it is from the same thing, from the grasping. That's all. This is against the essence of the enlightenment, totally. The enlightenment has been given already. Cutting is not about grasping. That's why there are so many variations of ways. Variations of methods and ways, because the grasping are in various forms. From no differentiation become differentiations. From no path becoming many paths. From no sex become sectarians. From no religions become religions. Saccadhamma is not religions. Non-attachment is not classified as anything, nor even religions, but the delusion to form up within viewpoints, within all the fabrications. That's why it becomes forms of religions, of sects. This is called collective delusive attachments, collective desire. From that which is not about anything become something, become substantial, deludedly thinking that it is the way, deludedly thinking that is the way and liking it. That's why it becomes samsara of circling. There is only delusive attachment that is collective, individual delusive attachment, collective delusive attachment. This is from the grasping mind, totally. In each Buddha era, there is only just cutting and giving the cutting and helping in cutting altogether. This is not about grasping. This is not about grasping for attainment. Giving the cutting is impossible to be fixated upon. giving the cutting instead. Once there is the delusion in fixation, therefore there is no ending accordingly, no cutting accordingly. Therefore, it becomes following in practicing. It's not the way at all. This is like kicking the ball into one's own goal. This is one's own samutai of grasping mind. Knowing, seeing, understanding, wisdom, mindfulness, concentration, or perfection. There is only just grasping for Nibbana, the path to enlightenment, grasping towards that which is not about grasping. Somehow there is always this kind of stubborn, persisting. Therefore it becomes so many paths. Even one path is not the way. How can there be so many paths? This is just a form up of deluded viewpoints. Forming up the viewpoints and being deluded to it. Being deluded to give meanings to that which is meaningless. Being deludedly giving meanings or opinions to that which is no meanings and opinions. This is being deluded to oneself, on and on. Misleading. Disregard even from the disregard itself. This has nothing to do with attachment or detachment because it is uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Then it will not be wrong to anicca, dukkha or anatta. What is it about being wrong? It is because being deluded to grasp that which is not about grasping. That's why it's wrong. Being deluded to yes towards that which has nothing to do with yes or no. That's why it's wrong. Being deluded to no towards that which is not even no itself. Being deluded to know which is not even know itself. That's why it's wrong. Being obsessed to yes and no, on and on. No is not even know itself. Why being deluded to know and yes, on and on. A delusion. Forming the deluded viewpoints and being deluded to it by oneself. Disregard even from the disregard itself simultaneously with all and everything. The enlightenment or cutting deluded knowing and the blessing is one in one sentence. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, all the same with everything. The non-attachment and the blessing is simultaneous within one sentence. There is no need to have steps before or after. Being deluded to these steps, forming up the viewpoints to obstruct oneself, being deluded to such steps before or after. No, go ahead simultaneously. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. There is no attributes of samutai, of any discrimination at all. There is no delusion of discrimination at all. There is steps before or after because there is discrimination. This is the titi. created all by oneself. What is there that is before or after? This is one's own thought, one's own interpretations. This is the delusion in creating Tithi. The anatta and anicca has such steps or what? Being deludedly interpret all by oneself, having one's own belief values, forming up one's own viewpoints and continue in this kind of belief values. What is there within these such steps? The anatta has nothing to do with enable to be true or not. This is forming up the Tithi by one's own mind. That which is anatta has nothing to do with being true or not. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. So that there will not be only about deluded viewpoints. So that there will not be only the mess with just books piercing through one's eyes on and on. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, simultaneously. The essence of cutting within the cutting itself, simultaneously with the blessing. The enlightenment and the blessing is simultaneous. This will be simultaneous purification of the extinction and the emptiness. This is not about steps. Everything is simultaneous. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, at each time, is the simultaneous giving of the compassion. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, is simultaneous with all and everything. This is the enlightenment and the blessing, all simultaneous proceeding. The arahants and the blessing is proceeding together at the same time, helping through unwinding and releasing simultaneously. Oneself is unwinding, all things are unwinding, all the same. All the delusive attachment will be unwound simultaneously, because all the delusion and delusive attachment will be dissolved at once, all the same. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, then the dissolvement will be all the same. There is no complications in the blessing at all. Use the Anupap, the mighty force, to purify all the same. Don't use the projection in the seeing, in the knowing, in the looking This is not the blessing. They are only just karmic difficulties. They are just heaviness and stickiness, all the same. There's just the blockage, all the same. Don't use the projecting mind. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. This is the anupap of unwinding and releasing that helps one another already. Blessing without taking in itself, purifying the blessing simultaneously. Simultaneously with all the climates, all things and all elements, without exception. Whether it is the ongoing of the blessing, this is the blessing that is simultaneous. Don't be deluded to the blessing itself. Using thought in blessing, that's why the blessing is not simultaneous. Don't think in blessing. It is simultaneous, giving evenly without meanings in all things and all elements, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself evenly without meanings and fixation. Don't think that you are blessing something. You are blessing and being deluded to it. You think you are blessing the beings, the non-human beings. This is a delusion in blessing. Disregard even from the disregard itself simultaneously with all things, all elements and all Dharma. Whether they are humans or non-humans, beings or non-beings, this is giving the essence of the blessing all the same and evenly. This is the blessing that is in balance, Nibbana that purifies samsara directly. This is not about aiming towards the non-human beings, humans, the beings, this and that. This is fixation to specificality. Do you know what it is? This is the delusive attachment that overlays the blessing. That's why the blessing is not in balance. Being deluded to yes towards that which is not about anything. No, it's not even not itself. This is being deluded to give significance towards the beings or non-beings, towards being specific. This is not purifying evenly when there is the saying that is all the same or simultaneous. Just go on accordingly. There is nothing in being the same or anything like that. There is no discrimination in purification through the emptiness and extinction or purification of Nibbana. This is evenly for all and everything without discrimination. There is a clashing towards the samsara, humans and non-humans, unconsciously, because being specific in blessing, where is the titi that is aiming towards blessing? Blessing the humans, the non-humans, unconsciously, that knowing that this is a clashes. When the blessing is being specific, it creates clashes towards all beings. When is it that it's happening in such a way? It is going to be simultaneous towards all climates, all things, all elements. Earth, air, water and fire. No need to be distinguished or discriminate towards anything. Purify all simultaneously and evenly, so that it will purify all the karma and karmic cycle of all the earth, air, water, and fire, and the work that one is doing, not just towards blessing towards the beings. All the karmic difficulties that are left over within your work will be purified simultaneously. The elements are not elements. Let's purify all simultaneously, totally. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, it will purify through the extinction and the emptiness simultaneously, whether it is the climate or not, the beings or not, tangible or intangible. Let it be purified through disregard, even from the disregard itself, all the same. Aiming towards that which is visible, there are a lot of the invisible. So don't be so discriminated. Whether it is visible or not, just purify simultaneously and evenly. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, no grasping, even the non-grasping itself simultaneously. For both the invisible and the visible, the known and the unknown, it is to be given simultaneously, so that there will not be the delusion in blessing.